Hello and welcome. In this episode, we are going to summarize the events on the front. Lyman is in danger of being encircled, and we have more information about Russia's mobilization. The general news about the Ukraine theater is that we now see the first signs of the Rasputitsa, which is the region when everything outside of solid roads turns into mud. There are images and reports about muddy roads and the first videos of military vehicles stuck in thick mud. The situation might still get better for a while, but the Rasputitsa is coming no matter what, and it's going to come fairly soon. Along the Eastern Front, we have reports from Ukrainian forces advancing further east of Dvorichna over the Oskil. According to Russian reports, they have reached and conquered Hiranikivka and Horobivka. Those two here, so they are advancing further north in the close to Kupiansk. Ukraine is reporting a Russian attack on Petropavlivka, which is here, so they have advanced further east. And there is video with geolocation that shows that they destroyed Russian military vehicles east of the town. So we can assume that Petropavlivka is in Ukrainian hands as of now. Nove is confirmed to be in Ukrainian hands. This is here. And we read that Chandru-Holove is likely in Ukrainian hands as well. This is here. Novoselivka is still contested, but the Ukrainians definitely have entered the town, so they are advancing here as well. And according to Rybar, the Ukrainians are not just advancing in this area, but as we can see, according to Rybar, they are also actually advancing here over the Siversky Donetsk, close to in the direction of Kremina, ready to cut off the retreat from Lyman. As of now, the communication lines, the lines of communication to the north are cut. Everything what we know as so far seems to confirm that. If there's actually a Ukrainian crossing of the Siversky Donetsk in this area here, then this more or less is the transport hub that is the essential point to cut off the rest of the forces. As if they're only reaching here, the Russians might still retreat north along that road here. Whereas should they reach Torske and Zarichne, everything that's in Lyman right now is being cut off, while we have reports that Lyman was still being reinforced. So there should be sizable Russian forces in Lyman that could be destroyed in case it's being cut off. Ukraine is reporting attacks at Solidar and at Bakhmutske, which is here. So the Russians are confirmed to attack here again. They're also reporting attacks at Odradivka, Kurdy, Yumivka, Zaitseve, and Mayorsk. So basically, in that area here, still attacks east and southeast of Bakhmut. Russian telegram sources claim that Wagner mercenaries have entered Bakhmut, and as we can see, that pro-Ukrainian map is actually showing parts of Bakhmut east of the river here to be at least contested, which would be kind of an expectation of the makers of this map that that this is actually true, that the Russian Wagner mercenaries have actually entered Bakhmut. Also, there is reports or claims by the Russians from the Russian side that Wagner has also entered Odradivka. This is unconfirmed as of now, though. We have further Russian attacks northwest of Donetsk, west and northwest, basically along this line, all still aimed in the direction of Avdiivka and roughly the northeast to bypass Avdiivka and then force the Ukrainians to withdraw from this area. The Russians themselves say they defeated a Ukrainian attack on Marinka, which is here. So supposedly the Ukrainians were attacking here, and we have reports of further Russian attacks at Novomykhailivka, which is here. When it comes to the southern front, there's shelling, as it is along the whole front line, but nothing else in particular. But we have some reports from further back from the hinterland. And here the Ukrainian mayor of occupied Melitopol has said that the Kremlin has told the local occupation authorities to create a volunteer battalion with 3,000 men until October the 10th. In Kherson, Ukraine is reporting that the Russian side is creating further defensive lines behind the current ones, so they are increasing their defense in depth possibilities. Obviously, more signs that there is that the Ukrainians hold the initiative here and that the Russians are being pushed back, even though the advances are kind of limited and really slow. Further reports about Ukrainian attacks on logistics, on storage facilities, command structures, troop concentrations, etc. That's nothing new. We hear about that every single time. We have occasionally reports that and pictures and videos to prove that. But in the end, all of this is just like the artillery fire from the other side. Highly likely they are doing damage, but in details, it's not really that impressive in my point that I feel the need to report every single location for you separately. Russian sources say, though, that they attacked the headquarters of the Ukrainian Southern Command in Odessa with a Shahed 136 drone. The Ukrainian side is confirming attacks with those drones in Odessa. They are saying that something else was the target, though. So whatever is true, we can't really confirm here. The headquarters might be hit and they might just not admit it. Ukraine is reporting that Russians are laying massive new minefields, which again shows us, together with the additional defense line, that the initiative is clearly still on the Ukrainian side here, because you don't lay minefields unless you expect to defend yourself. You don't lay mines when you're about to attack, at least in a big scale. Obviously, there can be tactical uses for mines in offensive warfare as well. Ukrainians also are claiming they destroyed an Iranian a control station for the Iranian drones here in Kinburn Spit. The location would actually be fairly ideal, as it's the closest to the hinterland of the Ukrainians. And we talked in the past that those drones very likely don't have communication via satellite available. So the closer you are to the target, the better. And this is the westernmost point. And now the Ukrainians say they destroyed the command center there. And not only did they kill Russian soldiers, but they claim to have also killed 20 Iranian trainers that were in that command center. We don't have any confirmations there. I just report the casualties this time, which I usually don't, because there's a high risk of it being propaganda or just invented, or it's fully within the fog of war. That's what I want to say. We don't have any real serious news about this information. But the important or the interesting, the different part here is that the claim is that they actually killed Iranians on the Russian side. Now, as I said, far from being confirmed at this point. And the last news about the whole region is that men of 35 and less are not allowed to leave the province, which would indicate that Russia is planning to forcibly recruit them as soon as the annexation is through, confirmed by parliament and the president. In the north, we have reports in the northern part of that Russian bridgehead on the other side of the Dnieper. We have reports about Ukrainian offensive activity close to Novovosnensenske. So here in this region, and there are reports of battles in these areas, Olhyne and Arkhangelske, probably reconnaissance and force. In every region, it doesn't seem like there are any serious attempts to achieve a breakthrough. In the Inhulets bridgehead, there are reports about battles in the region of Suky Stavok. We have no idea whether that means Kostromka is lost again or whether those might be advances coming in this direction. Both is fairly possible. We don't really have any reports, and we have video evidence of further attacks against Davidi Brit, but it's not ground attacks. So Davidi Brit is still under fire with drones and everything from the Ukrainian side, but I don't have further reports here about any ground having changed territory. There's interesting part, though, that we again have reports about Ukrainian troops being attacked in Bezimene. This is here, so south of Snihurivka and supposedly south of the front line, which would again is like we have those reports a couple of times already. Maybe the map here is inaccurate. It is quite within the realm of possibility that this region here, maybe along this canal or something, that this region might be in Ukrainian hands on the other side of the Inulets here on the right bank, but it is unconfirmed. Just the reports about attacks at Bezimene are not for the first time coming that Ukrainian troops are being attacked there. So unless I mistake the location, which is always possible because they like to give the same names for different towns, in this case, I'm fairly sure that it's not true. So not fully confirmed, maybe Ukrainians here, but also that might not even be fresh conquests or fresh liberations. They might hold that for quite some time, as it's not the first time we hear about that. Other than that, we have reports about Ukrainian offensive activity in Posad Pokrovske. The Russians, this is here along the road to Kherson, and the Russians are reporting that Ukraine is getting reinforcements down from Mykolaiv towards that front line. That's about it for the front, the developments on the front. So we see Lyman is now in threat of being encircled. There has been a breakthrough north of it. We will have to watch how fast the Ukrainian side can extend it. They clearly still have the initiative. They clearly can still gain ground. But we have to see that this time they don't have the element of surprise. So the advances should be less in size. Smaller in size than they have been in this region here. We have reports now about the mobilization. It seems that Russia does not have a centrally organized mobilization planned, but it's rather telling its federative subjects the number and the date until when the mobilized forces have to be recruited, have to be called up. That means that the mobilization is happening through military commissariats, but they are not subordinate to the military, but to the political chiefs of the federation subjects, which obviously might be one explanation of the extremely chaotic mobilization in some regions, that they just want to fulfill the quota by every means, or maybe even extend them to show their loyalty towards the Kremlin. So in this case, we can't say too much yet, but we learn more about how it is organized and if we can even call it organized. So it seems that they just get told you have to recruit this amount of people, and if they don't pay too much attention to the rules that have been given, they just grab everyone they can and put them in uniform. In this way, the mobilization seems to have gained its own initiative to a certain degree. The indication is that several of those federative subjects are now trying to simply recruit as many as possible. As said, we can just speculate about the motivations for that. That might be to gain favor with the Kremlin, or that might be that they simply want to honestly help as much as they can within the war effort. According to Russian sources, the training will be 1 to 2 months, which clearly has to be said is not enough for anyone who has not recently left the armed forces. That's basically less than a normal boot camp, and nobody would claim a soldier out of boot camp is ready for combat. In most cases, it is likely even less. So far, it's also cleared that when we think about who is being recruited now, we know that those are people that did not want to join the volunteer battalions. So they were too demotivated and didn't find a reason to fight for this war when they still had the voluntary chance for it, which again would be an indication that they don't want to fight and that their morale should be lower than from the units before. There are now proven cases of self-inflicted wounds. There is a video, for instance, of somebody letting someone else jump on his leg to break it. I will link that video in the description. In the first comment. It is not that gruesome as you might see, but there's no reason to provoke YouTube with showing that here. If you really want to see it, I will show it to you. But I don't see a reason to show it here. And there's also a report and there's video of that, of at least one recruit setting himself ablaze to avoid recruitment or to protest against it. So there's even one now having set himself alight. According to some reports, recruits are taking medkits out of their cars and asking women for tampons to plug bullet wounds with that, which is an indication of how bad they see the likely equipment to be in the future. And we have some images here. When we see here, this is being spread around, shows the Russians being in wooden barracks. And I honestly have to say, I've seen worse. I don't even think that's this bad, even though it's getting mocked. Even the wood seems in fairly good quality and so on, like it doesn't seem rotten. But we see this is the alternative for that, simply putting up beds in the woods. I guess they might want to get some tents over this. And here again, we need to see that we don't see soldiers here yet. That's something we should be aware of when we see that. It might very well be that until the moment the soldiers arrive here, there might be tents over that, even though it seems unlikely when you see that the beds already have sheets and towels and everything there. That seems to be actually the real camp they plan to send the soldiers in. And in other cases, we have this here where we can see the Russian soldiers showing how they sleep. And we see it's barracks, it's proper buildings here, but they are simply lying on the floor and resting there. They don't even have beds in this case. All of this signs of how chaotic and how badly equipped the stuff is that's being handed to them. There are also videos about old trucks that are being sent to the front line. There, though, I have to say it has to be put into some perspective. If those trucks are actually running, it doesn't really matter that much, and nobody would have expected to see reserve units being equipped with trucks made in 2015, as long as they run. And the question then would obviously be, for how long do they run? If the trucks break down within 50 kilometers, they are more or less useless. If they last for 50,000, it's a whole different story. Still, we also have further information according to Ukraine, men that participate in the farce that they call a referendum. I'm not sure how to properly address it in English without seemingly giving it some legitimacy. There can be no doubt that there is no legitimacy in those referendums that the Russians are calling within Ukrainian territory. But according to Ukrainian claims, men that participate there are handed a Russian passport right afterwards and immediately being recruited. Now, we need to see here, this might be true. This might also just be propaganda, and the little saboteurs here, this might also be propaganda to discourage men from participating in those referendums. That needs to be, we need to be aware that Ukraine is an active war participant and obviously has its own interest in reporting things which might not necessarily always be the truth. If the annexation is going to happen on October the 1st, the Russian, which is expected to be now this case now. Okay, now he has turned off. Okay, we are back. So if the referendum is happening until October the 1st, the annexation is happening until October the 1st, Russia could actually recruit the men within those territories right away, because on October the 1st, they are sending out the recruitment letters for the Russian in general, in the context of general Russian conscription. It's, I think, done twice a year, and once of those two times is October the 1st. So if the annexation is through by that point, from a Russian standpoint, that it would be legal to recruit the Ukrainian men, I think until 28 or something like this, into the armed forces right away, into the Russian armed forces right away. The Russian state television has said on the 24th of September that Ukrainian prisoners of war within the so-called Donetsk People's Republic were asking verbally, so not in written form, to be allowed to join the volunteer battalion Bohdan Khmelnytsky to fight on the side of the Donetsk People's Republic, of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, which would be once again breaking of the Geneva Convention from the Russian side, at least unless we believe the Russian version that it's fully voluntarily, because it's obviously illegal to force prisoners of war into your own armed forces, even though that has a long historic precedent. It is now forbidden with the Geneva Convention, but I don't think Russia would break the Geneva Convention by allowing them to actually voluntarily join, even though it seems fairly likely that this is happening in any serious amount. We have further images of violence and protests against the recruitments here. We see it here happening in Northern Caucasus. A woman is screaming to the official, according to the translation, "You send our children there and then they burn in tanks." There are several dozen events like this reported where the population is protesting the recruitment within the mobilization. While there is further news about how the mobilization is happening, students have been mobilized right from the beginning, despite Shoigu saying they are exempt from it, despite it publicly being said whoever's at university is basically safe. Putin now issued a decree on the 24th of September to explicitly exclude students from the mobilization to avoid that from happening further. And then again, you have to see probably big parts of the Russian elites have their youth in their youth that is in fighting male age is enrolled in universities, because that's one of the official ways to avoid the draft within Russia to go to university. Right now, it's still unclear whether it's forbidden for men to leave Russia. There are several reports about specific regions already forbidding it. And as of now, I have not seen a full confirmation yet. It seems that at least it's still possible to leave Russia. And we see here that's from the Georgian border. And as you can see, it's basically exclusively men. And they seem to start leaving their cars behind to flee on foot while they still have a chance. We can see some video here in the background on how the road is completely clogged with cars where the people are leaving on foot. No, you don't go here. Are leaving on foot to avoid being trapped within Russia until the point when the mobilization might hit them. Ukraine is also saying that the first recruits are already in Ukraine. They are already fighting on the Ukrainian front. We only have Ukrainian reports when it comes to this. I just let this run here in the background so you can see the extent of the traffic jam here, and much of it is probably now abandoned cars. We see people on foot walking towards the border. So Ukraine is saying first recruits are there, and then we have some other big news to end today's episode. That is that there seems to have been explosives planted along the two pipelines through the Baltic Sea from Russia to Germany, Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2. First, Nord Stream 2 blew up at 1 a.m. local time, and then later at 1900, so 7 p.m. local time, there was another explosion at Nord Stream 1, and the pressure within the tubes of the pipeline is dropping massively. I cannot confirm if at this point there is still natural gas flowing through them or not, but it seems they have been blown up. Now, we can obviously speculate what was going on there, but having it twice with that difference excludes any potential natural cause for that, like an earthquake or just a disaster, just a mistake, a construction mistake or something like this. This was clearly deliberately blown up. I don't think actually that the Russians are likely here, because if they want to turn off gas to Germany, they just turn it off. No matter whatever the treaties say, it's not like they obeyed treaties before that. So in my book, my estimate, if I was asked to say who is the cause for that, I would actually expect some from the West wanting to blow it up to solidify politics within Germany and prevent fall of the German government in fall or winter when the gas is running out, and to allow forces that say, hey, let's make peace with Russia, and they will turn on the gas and we can buy cheap gas and save the economy and save the people at winter. That was a a possibility which is actually seen within media and German government as well, that something like this might happen. And if the pipelines no longer exist or are destroyed in a way that they can't be repaired anytime soon, this is clearly no longer an option. Any potential opposition government that might gain power through something like this could not even open the gas pipelines again. So if I'm asked to, for me, it seems the intention is probably the perp for those demolition charges is likely within the western area, trying to solidify Germany's position by simply taking away options, which would, if I was right, I just want to say, if I'm asked to weigh who's likely, this is far from proof, don't take me literally, please, but if this is the case, if my judgment is correct, it would actually show how the Western partners see Germany, that they actually think it's a real possibility of the German government to falter over it, and Germany switching, more or less switching sides, or at least switching to a point where it's claiming neutrality and stop every support for the Ukrainians to get cheap gas again. And as Germany is obviously in the center of Europe, that would be a huge problem for the lines of communication towards the Ukrainian border if that new German government would then even ban transports through its territory. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed so, I have to say this channel is only possible because of viewers like you. If you want to support the channel, you find the options for that in the description. Thank you to everyone who already enjoys the channel. It's very much appreciated. And as said, without you, all of this wouldn't be possible. And you can also support the channel by hitting the like button, leaving comments, spreading the word around, spreading this channel as far as you can and as you want, so it can find more subscribers. And obviously, if you are not a subscriber yet, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button so you don't miss future videos. That's it for me for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back.